Hello everybody and welcome to my first Q&A video, my first proper Q&A video. I did consider doing one when I reached 100 subs back in early 2016. However, I deemed that I did not have enough viewers to get enough questions. And I know I said in my announcements video I would do a Q&A with just 5 good questions, but even then it was a bit of a stretch back then. Now, not only have I got 5 good questions, I've got a lot of good questions, which I'm truly thankful for. So thank you everyone for the questions you've asked. Much appreciated. I will try and answer them all. Some questions are duplicated. Those 1 or 2 that I might avoid. But who knows? We'll see where we go. But yeah, let's get started. Skyshooter asked, do you celebrate Christmas? Yes, I do celebrate Christmas. I celebrate for traditional reasons as well, which obviously plays a key role in how the season works. But I also enjoy it as a time to relax. I prefer Christmas to other holidays, and I particularly prefer Christmas to birthdays because it is not just unique to one person or one nation. Of course, in some countries in North Africa, the Middle East, the Far East, Christmas is not recognised as a public holiday. But in many countries it does involve time off or celebration of some sort. And even in some of those countries that don't have a public holiday, they may still give it some observance. But as for me, yes, I certainly do celebrate Christmas. Scorpio asked, out of all done so far, which RR has been your favourite? This is a very tough question. I have a lot to choose from. I don't think my time doing RRs has been incredibly boring. To mention a few I've enjoyed for various reasons, I would say Aquilium Season 1 was good, as I won that with JC and Zenger, 2 of my good friends, although unfortunately Zenger died midway through, but it was still enjoyable and is the only time we were ever on the same team for a UHC. Rebellion Season 2 was good, again, because I won with Scorpio and Black Pants, 2 good friends, and it was a game in which we weren't favourites. However, even when we were on top, we made the right calls and came out victors. All the Cake Course seasons have been really good. Season 2 was good because Danster and I won without finding a single diamond. And Season 6 was also good due to the roller coaster of a time I had PvP wise along with Kazbek before obviously I managed to claim victory. Pocket Season 4 was good. Sneaky and I, Mindful Diamond, got 8 kills between us and really kept each other going into the early hours of that morning. Also, Zenger's Insurgent UHC was my first solo recorded round, and I enjoyed that just for the experience. I think though by far and away my favourite RR is still and will probably always be Pocket Season 5, and that's not just because I was KT with 6 kills, but more because of the story that was told from my perspective. It was one of hardship, hope and revival, as I went in expecting nothing more than a single fight. However, even though I only minded chance, fooled around on a donkey for a while and had someone lava themselves, I managed to get a kill, mined a few more diamonds, intercepted Summer in the Nether, got pots, and then went on to get more kills in a rags to riches story. Not all stories have a happy ending, of course. Sneaky killed me when there was 3 remaining, but it was a decent fight as I recovered from a backstab to put up an honourable last stand. Like, the season was everything I would want from an RR. Drama, struggle, turning point, some good PvP action. I guess winning isn't everything, and I'm not saying that because I'm bitter. Like, genuinely, if winning was the most important thing, then I wouldn't pick this RR as my favourite. But winning isn't everything for me. The way the season panned out, the way things came together, it was just incredible, and I will be stunned if I have an RR that even comes close to that one with regards to drama and action. So Santa asked, who do you support? And I'm guessing this question is asking who my favourite football or soccer team is. And basically I follow the Scottish national team, as well as a provincial team called St Johnstone, they play in the Scottish Premiership, which is the top division in Scottish football. And I've also done a few Football Manager series with them in the past. I don't follow any big teams. I don't have an English team. A lot of Scottish football fans have an English football team, like a favourite English football team, but I don't. I do check English football from time to time, but I'm not overly bothered about the elite football. So a couple of questions were asked by Twist Goose and Sot Pal, and they were slightly different, but almost identical. They were, I think, basically one asked, which PvP I preferred, 1.9 plus or 1.8 and lower, and one asked which version did I prefer, 1.8 or 1.12. Now, personally, PvP, I like both versions, honestly. 1.12 offers something completely different, it's fresh, not many people are super good at it, which I'm not saying that because I want to boost my ego. All I'm saying is it means everyone's learning it, at the same time. It's a fresh start almost. 1.8 is still fun. I enjoy that. It's very, very challenging depending on where you go, and obviously it's what I'm used to. So I enjoy just being able to jump into an arena game or a UHC or whatever and just play it seamlessly. I'm on the fence with PvP. I like both versions. I prefer PvP or combat for survival. I prefer that in 1.12. Combat and survival in 1.12 is far better than 1.8. But for PvP games such as UHC, I could play that in both versions, no problem. If we're talking about the versions as a whole, if there was only one version I could play, then I would have to select 1.12 because there's more to that. Survival is just generally better. There's more customization, more you can do with maps and stuff, and obviously the PvP is you can do both versions of PvP. You can do spam clicking and the cooldown type. Obviously the spam clicking isn't exactly the same as it is in 1.8, but it still just shows the level of customization you can have. So yeah, hope that answers your question. But with regards to PvP, I'm on the fence. I can't decide. I'm sorry. But if we're talking about the updates as a whole, 1.8 or 1.12, I prefer 1.12. Frisky also asked, what is your favourite holiday? So when I first read this question, I was thinking it was asking where my favourite holiday had been. For example, was it my holiday in Wales? But then I remembered in the US, the word for that sort of holiday is vacation. And I believe what Frisky is asking is what holiday season do I like, such as Christmas, Easter, summer, and so on and so forth. I could be wrong, and to make sure I get it right, I will answer both sides of the question. First of all, my favourite holiday season would definitely be Christmas. Had I still been in school, it would have been summer, as that was the longest holiday. However, I do enjoy Christmas, as it's more of a universal holiday that's taken by many, many people in many, many different countries, and obviously there's a whole aspect of the celebrations themselves that I enjoy. Secondly, what holiday or vacation have I enjoyed the most? I have been to Africa, but that was more work than an actual holiday, so I wouldn't count that. I went backpacking around Germany about 10 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. I could speak and can still speak some of the language, plus it felt like a real adventure travelling everywhere by train or bus and seeing all sorts of different sites and amusement areas, and everything I took I had to carry on my back, so that would probably be my favourite holiday or vacation. Sam and Santa both asked about my thoughts. What are my thoughts on the new update Aquatic that's coming to Minecraft? This will be 1.14. So basically, I think for a long time the community has been crying out for more features to be added to the oceans in Minecraft, especially since they take up such a large area of the world. Obviously 1.7 added deep oceans, and then 1.8 added the ocean monuments along with guardians and elder guardians. But even despite these changes, there was still a large section of the ocean that was just as mundane as it always had been. I do therefore believe this update is going to be a very good thing. It will of course provide new features in oceans to explore, but it will also add new blocks. It will hopefully inspire the community with more ideas. I think the fact they are adding sub-biomes within the oceans, along with shipwrecks, which is something I've used in mods before, is a good thing. Also, I've heard that dropped items will now float to the surface, which is superb. So overall, I'm very, very much looking forward to this update. Can't wait to try it out. Ristoman asked, are you ever going to do a face cam? Now, I'm not going to say no, because you never know what might happen in future. You never know what opportunities might present themselves or what attitude changes I may go through. But currently I don't have any plans to do that. I don't really have a good camera anyway, and the best one I have can only record for about 9 minutes, so it shows how old it is. I am for sure not self-conscious about how I look, but my channel really isn't aimed around how I look or anything that I own or things like that. I would also rather people judge me on who I was as a person as opposed to anything else, although that's kind of hard when people judge you for specific unpopular tactics in block game. Also, internet safety kind of plays, it comes into it as a factor. Now, that's not saying if I did a face reveal I would immediately be it would be more dangerous for me, but a low profile is what I try to keep, and not doing face cams is just part of that. A few people asked, where does your IGN JamestheDouglas come from, or something along those lines. So I came up with this around 2011. I've never really had a preferred IGN before that, despite being on forums and things like that for many years. I can't remember when I first used it, but it may have been when I created my Minecraft account. I was, and still am, very interested in Scottish history. One of the key events was the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, where we defeated an invading English army that came to break a siege on Stirling Castle. The main commander was the king at the time, Robert the Bruce, but he had a lieutenant called James, who was the Earl of Douglas. Douglas being like a landowning clan, and he was like the main chief or whatever. His nickname was James the Black Douglas. I thought he was a cool figure in history. He was loyal to the king, even when loads of other people deserted him. He played an integral role in recapturing Scottish strongholds from the English, and he was just generally a good fighter. He died eventually while fighting on crusade in Spain. So, for whatever reason, I chose to adopt this guy's name. However, I decided to drop the black part. So instead of it being James the Black Douglas, I just changed it to JamestheDouglas. This was to shorten the name, but also to remove a potentially controversial word. The black part of the original name is not racist, but the internet today. I felt that a meal could have been made out of it, or some meme or something silly like that, so I just decided to steer clear, and I have no regrets about that whatsoever. And I like the fact, James is an ordinary name for people to know me by, so perfectly fine by me. Santa's asked some very, very challenging questions, but this question is, what was the best football team of all time? Now, obviously, this is my opinion, and it's a very difficult question because I've followed the sport for almost 20 years, but it has existed for a lot longer than that. The Brazil World Cup team in 1970 is said to have played the best football ever. Plus they were successful, as 1970 was their third World Cup success in 4 attempts. Obviously I was not alive to witness that, so if we're talking about my own conscious lifetime, then I would have to say 2 teams have stood out, 2 club sides have stood out. Firstly, the AC Milan team of the mid-2000s was incredible. They had so many good players. They got to 3 European Cup finals. Of course, they famously lost to Liverpool in 2005. I remember that game well. The commentator of the game said that they were playing football, and you can look this up on YouTube. You can just watch the sort of football they were playing in the first half. But the commentator said they were playing football out of this world. And they would have won more trophies, but for the match fixing scandal that meant Juventus got 2 Serie A's by unfair means. The second team is obviously the Barcelona team of 2008 to 2012. They played a short passing game, which won them a lot of trophies. I think 14 in 4 years. Messi was the crown and the jewel of the team, and he was the best player. He was the one who all the attacking moves kind of flowed through. Yeah, they were utterly dominant against even the best teams. I remember in 2011, they beat a Man United team in the European Cup final who had just been crowned champions of England. So they weren't a terrible team. They were actually the best England had to offer, and yet Barcelona won so easily it was unreal. If I had to choose one of those teams, I'd probably say the Barcelona team, just because they won more trophies. But the AC Milan team, I think it was about 2003 to 2007, that AC Milan team was really, really good. So it's time for a controversial question, folks, and I will do my very best to answer it with my own experience and insight. But it was asked by Santa, does 1.8 or 1.9 require more raw skill? And obviously he's talking about PvP, specifically the combat. Let me try and answer this. The changes that 1.9 made where I believe a result of what the survival community wanted. Maybe not all, but I think a lot of the community was unhappy with how simplistic the combat was from a survival point of view. Did they do a good job in upgrading the combat for survival? Some say yes, some say no. Personally, I got used to it now, so I'm fine with it as it is. My reason for talking about this is to highlight the old cliche that 1.8 and below PvP takes no skill as it's just clicking fast. This obviously comes from a survival community that found the combat to be too simplistic for what they were looking for. Obviously, as an experienced PvPer, I know that PvP in 1.7 and 1.8 is more than just clicking fast. It obviously requires good aim, good coordination to use rods, lava, water, blocks, etc. And that's just UHC. There's still SOUP, PvP, SG, POP PvP, and there's also so many other unseen tactics, as it were, such as W taps, S taps, block hitting strafes, counter strafes, rod tricks, crits, narrow shift strafes, and all sorts of styles that demonstrate 1.7 and 1.8 PvP requires a vast array of skills and abilities beyond just clicking fast. On the contrary, clicking fast is not even a decisive factor in this style of PvP, but that's another debate entirely. The point is, 1.7 and 1.8 PvP requires a vast amount of skill, but does it require more skill than its 1.9 counterpart? Classical PvP, that is to say 1.7 and 1.8, has a significant advantage in that it has been out for a lot longer than 1.9. It's been played more than 1.9. 1.7 was released in late October 2013. 1.9 was released 2.5 years later. With 1.7 and 1.8 still being used extensively to this very day, they have been public now for over 4 years. More time has been spent by the community playing 1.7 and 1.8 PvP, therefore there has been time for the skill cap to rise, that is to say for the community as a whole to get better at the game through the discovery of new tactics and general practice. To highlight this more in depth, I'll talk about myself, my own experience. People said I was bad at PvP back in 2015, 2016. You know, people come to my channel, look at my old videos and go, oh, he was bad. Individually, like talking just about me, my own PvP ability, yes, I have improved a lot since then. But regarding my position of ability in the spectrum of the entire PvP community, okay, so from, you know, whoever is the best PvPer, let's just say Dante for the sake of argument. So from Dante to whoever the worst PvPer is, we'll just call him Philip. From Dante to Philip, my position in the spectrum of ability in the PvP community has not changed, okay? Can I prove it? Not really. It's one of these things you're just going to have to take my word for it. Maybe I've improved slightly in that spectrum, but it's really just an experience thing, just from what from my memory, from what I was like, you know, back in the day and what I'm like now. But yeah, as I said, I haven't, compared to all the PvPers, I've not improved at all. It's the same with the top players today. The best players at the game today are far better than the best players were back in 2015, 2014 even. The best players today are better than the best players in 2014. And that's a general rule, I believe, in competitive games. Take CSGO for example. CSGO probably has a skill cap, which may be improving, it may not be. PUBG has a skill cap that is no doubt improving rapidly, as the game is just new, and so the community have had less time to develop tried and tested strats and skills. And I feel that Minecraft 1.7 and 1.8 has a skill cap that has stagnated. That being said, let's talk about 1.9 PvP. The immediate thought of those who asked for the changes was that they liked the new system. As the hit cooldown, it presented a much needed outlet for skill the combat had been missing previously. However, I have seen those that say slowing down the combat does not mean it requires more skill. I think both those statements are true in their own way. The fact that you have to time your hits in 1.9 PvP means it requires timing and the coordination to aim properly as the swing is made. I believe more skill is required in simple melee, like forget about all the secondaries, more skill is required in simple melee in 1.9. Take 1.8, 1.7 for example. It's easier to click at a reasonable rate and aim, as you would in 1.7, 1.8, than it is to time your hits and aim properly so as to inflict the maximum amount of damage. That being said, PvP is not just simply about melee. In 1.9 there are shields as well, but there's also a lot of other things, a lot of other secondaries such as lava, water, blocks, and obviously pots in pot PvP. I believe that it takes a similar degree of skill, inventory management, and coordination to work with all of these extras in both 1.8 and in 1.9. However, I believe that because 1.7 and 1.8 has been used for a lot longer, the skill cap is much higher, and this is not just simply down to the longevity spent playing these versions, but it's also because at one time almost 100% of the PvP community was playing in these versions. Today, however, the PvP community is split, not equally, but most play in 1.7, 1.8, while some play in 1.9 plus, and so there has been more time and indirect dedication to increase the skill cap in the older versions that might never occur in the current versions of the game. The ongoing updates to Java Edition means that new things might be added for PvP in future that causes the skill cap to fluctuate due to the need to gain experience and practice with new items or the new tactics that they might develop. This comes to my conclusion. As a result of what I've discussed, I believe that with all the time 1.7 and 1.8 has been used for PvP, there is more skills, more abilities for people to take advantage of. There's greater knowledge and greater experience of the game in those versions, and it would take a lot of skill to reach the top, to be the very best in those versions. People have said the skill cap was lowered in 1.9, and this is true. However, I feel the skill cap could rise again in the community over time, and also if a lot of people play it. I feel like the potential of new additions to PvP in future updates could mean the skill cap of 1.9 plus PvP could exceed that of 1.7 and 1.8. However, that potential may never be reached if PvP does not have the same popularity as 1.7 and 1.8 had. So in short, at this very moment in time, December 2017, I believe 1.7 and 1.8 requires more raw skill due to the time frame it has been played. However, I also believe 1.9 PvP and 1.12 PvP and all that could overtake this in future, depending on how much attention it gets from the community. But right now I believe it would take more skill to become the very best PvPer in 1.7 and 1.8 than it would in 1.9 PvP, and thereby I believe 1.7 and 1.8 does require more skill. Skyshooter asked, what is your favourite ice cream flavour? And I hate to disappoint, but I wouldn't say I have one preferred flavour of traditional ice cream. I'm not a huge fan of chocolate for some reason, but I do like Cornetto's strawberry ice cream type, and also the traditional 99s you get in the UK, and you might get them elsewhere, but I really, really like them. I was in Italy once, and the only ice cream I had on that trip was a chocolate one up the top of Mount Vesuvius, and it was a real letdown, especially since I was in Italy and it's renowned for its ice cream. But yeah, I don't really have one specific flavour. If I had to say one, I'd probably say a strawberry cornetto. Scorpio asked, if you didn't do Minecraft, what would your channel focus on? If I didn't do Minecraft, honestly, I strongly suspect I would not have a channel, or I would not have uploaded nearly as much as I have. However, before I uploaded Minecraft, I had around 60 or so Football Manager videos, so they were uploaded straight from the game. I would probably be uploading more of those, and who knows, whatever game I played in place of Minecraft, I may have uploaded that as well. Skyshooter asked, what is my view on net neutrality? And as far as net neutrality goes itself, I believe it's a very good thing, because obviously it means nobody has any preferential treatment because of how much they've paid. This is as far as my understanding goes. I don't know an awful lot about it, but assuming it is what I've read it is, I believe that without any bias or any extra money, everyone has complete access to the internet, which obviously the internet is a very powerful thing, it's a very useful thing, and I think that's very, very important. Now you've got to keep in mind that with regards to the changes they're making, these are obviously being made in the US. I don't really understand quite what that means. I obviously have never lived in the US, so I don't know what it was like before the 2015 Net Neutrality Act was passed. I get the feeling the U-turn on it hasn't come out of thin air, but is meant to benefit someone? Is it supposed to benefit big corporations? Is it meant to benefit the internet providers? Is it meant to benefit the public? If the overall benefit of this decision does not end with the people of the US, then it can be considered a bad thing. But if it is to benefit internet providers or bigger corporations with a long-term aim of benefiting the majority of the people of the US, then it surely can't be considered a bad thing. But that obviously depends on, like, if that is the case, it depends on how the bigger corporations or the internet providers or whoever act as a result of the changes. I don't know. I'm speaking hypothetically. Of course, if it is just a censoring issue, limiting freedom of speech, access to information, whatever, or just a financial tool to line some geezers' pockets, I would say it's entirely a bad thing. Overall, I don't know enough, and it's not that I don't care. I'm just not as motivated to read about it, as the effects are less likely to arrive at British shores. So apologies for poorly answering the question, but I don't really know much, and I don't have a strong opinion. Sam asked, what do you think about the new textures that will be coming very soon? And Twisted Goose asked, which do you prefer, new textures, old textures? And this is specifically talking about the default textures that will be changed in a future Minecraft version, or I think it's just a future date. I don't think it's attached to any specific version. But before I answer this question, I think it's good to understand why the Minecraft textures are receiving an update. I have no idea, honestly. I don't believe Mojang would push this update just for the sake of it, or simply for any personal gain to themselves. I think it has something to do with the need to add new blocks of a far higher quality compared with textures already in the game. Now, I'm unsure if the low quality classical textures can be just glossed over, but clearly they don't believe this is the case, and they feel that a graphical overhaul is essential to kind of mesh the old blocks and the new blocks together. And when I say new blocks, these might be blocks that haven't been added yet, that haven't been thought of. It might be a better safe than sorry situation, who knows. While the textures were being developed though, I was following Susuma Void, and he was reviewing them, and I saw a lot of comments, and there was a lot of people that spoke negatively about them. Sometimes rightly so, like the old obsidian texture that they were going to use was not that great, and then when the first texture pack came out for trial, there was a lot of criticism. It only came out I think a couple of weeks ago. I've used the trial texture pack now for over a week. I've used it in Cakecore SMP, I've used it in another thing I was recording, and none of the textures have really bothered me all that much. Now, I understand other people are better at building than me, or better at making texture packs, and they can use their experience and knowledge to critically analyse these changes to a higher degree than I can. But from my position as a long-time Minecraft player, it was not difficult for me to use the textures and to get used to them quickly. Hand on heart, the only texture I have a real dislike for is the potato. Some of the others, such as diamonds, I can live with, but I'm not 100% liking. And other textures, such as the ores, I really like. And it's ironic I should say that I like the ores, as I was speaking to someone the other day, I think it was Fairy Juice, and he said he didn't really like the ores. And I think what this highlights is the fact that the changes can't always be objectively criticised, and often it's down to preference. Some people like them, some people don't. Thinking about the current default textures, surely there are some that people don't like, and the same will be said of the new textures. I'm guessing a lot of people don't see the need for such a huge overhaul. Is it simply a dislike of change? It might be, I don't know. But what I do know is, assuming the ability to use normal texture packs is available in future updates, people will still take advantage of that in order to customise the game in a way that suits them, and I like that fact, to be honest. For me, I wouldn't say I liked all of the new textures 100%, but I have been able to play Minecraft using them in the last week without screwing up my eyes or switching back to the current default textures. I wouldn't say I prefer the new textures to the old ones, but in future I might like them even more. One thing I don't want is the new textures to exist in all updates, as I believe they were planning this. I feel this might mess with the old updates, but I'm not 100% sure, so I can't comment too much on this. So Frisky Savage asked, have you ever had any pets? I've got a piranha and an alligator in my bathtub.
You do?
I've got a piranha and an alligator in my bathtub.
You do?
I've never had any pets of any sort. I wouldn't want one that costed a lot to care for, nor one that would require a lot of attention and work. Maybe a goldfish, as I believe they can maintain a relaxed atmosphere. Sotpow asked, apart from Minecraft, what is your favourite video game? I don't have a definitive second favourite game to Minecraft. I have enjoyed so many games I've played. Things like Lego Star Wars, The Simpsons Hit and Run, all the Lord of the Rings games were good on PS2 and PC. If I had to pick one other favourite game, it would have to be the Football Manager series. I played that for many years until I began playing Minecraft. My early channel videos were based off that game. I like the concept of running a football team, and instead of controlling the team directly, as you do in FIFA, you set them up beforehand, make changes during the game. Plus, there's the rewarding feeling of developing a team and the adrenaline rush of scoring a last-minute winner. I do have to give a special mention though to the Shadow of Mordor, which I'm uploading at the moment, because I bought it kind of on a whim, wasn't sure if I was going to record it, but after playing for a bit I decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a go, and I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. I like the storyline, the twists, the character development, the open world aspect is amazing, that along with the fact it's, Lord of the Rings themed, so I would say that game is right up there as well. Alright, so I've been trying to answer this question for about half an hour. It's very, 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 very difficult. Thanks, Zenger, for such a hard question. His question came in two parts. Do you think you might ever run out of time to do YouTube? And I was wondering what your plans for the future of this channel will be if that ever happens. So I'll just give it straight. Yes, I do foresee time running out, but I don't know why that time's going to run out. I don't have any plans right now for things like a job, a family, or anything else. None of that's really planned in my head. I don't plan more than 10 minutes in front of me in real life, so who knows what's going to happen. But if a family comes along, if a job comes along, if opportunities that are time consuming comes along, then obviously I will have less time to do YouTube. I've been very fortunate in the last 5 years with my university degree, which was demanding but it wasn't strict, and my ill health, which ill health itself isn't fortunate, but that gave me a lot of time to just record, play games and upload. But that might not be the case in future. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to run out of time tomorrow. I think what might happen is I will just upload less and less depending on how busy I get, and at that point then it'll just be a case of diligently balancing my time between what I need to do and what I want to do, which obviously YouTube's what I want to do. What I need to do is obviously work on whatever job I have or whatever situation I'm in or whatever role I have. I reckon I've got enough experience through doing YouTube that I can manage my time and still upload. My plan is to continue to do what I enjoy. JamestheDouglas, the channel, isn't just specifically about games, it's more about what I enjoy. However, obviously what I enjoy is games, video games, so for the foreseeable future I will be uploading them, and they're not the most difficult thing to record and edit. The future of my channel, should I run low on time, won't necessarily be that I quit altogether, but more I'll upload less. Maybe not even once a day, maybe like a few times a week or whatever. I don't know. I guess the point is, as long as I have the desire to upload, and as long as I have the desire to play games, and as long as I have the desire, the time to upload and play games and all that, then I will continue with my channel regardless of where I am in life or what I'm doing. But obviously, if it's not possible, if I can't devote the time to it, or if I just get bored of it, then I will cease from uploading. Yes, I do anticipate I'll run out of time at some point. Maybe not entirely, but I do anticipate at some point I'll upload less and maybe cease altogether depending on circumstances. Scorpio asked a similar question to Zenger. Do you see your channel career ending at all? I know a lot of people have said things like, oh, I'm definitely not doing YouTube after this age or that age or whatever. To be honest, I'm not going to rule out the potential that I might be doing YouTube for a long time, because 2 years ago I remember predicting a stop to my channel during the year, and it never came. Similarly, last year I did not expect to still be doing YouTube at this time, so this year I've learnt my lesson. I'm not going to say anything. I have no idea. The fact it is not my job means it's highly unlikely I will be doing it for the long run. There's every chance I could give up tomorrow just from lack of interest or whatever. But for now, I'm enjoying the ride. And I never try to plan out my life, to be honest. So in short, I believe it will end at some point, but it's just a matter of when rather than if. Sotpow asks, what keeps you playing this game? And it's a good question, and honestly, I don't know for sure. I guess the first reason would be the fact the game is still being updated, which means there's new free content to enjoy, more inspiration to be drawn from what's added, and more new things to explore and discover. Even if updates ceased, there are still other factors that keeps me playing. I've made a lot of friends that play this game. I've created a viewer base, not a very big one, but a small sized viewer base on my channel. And I feel more ingrained in the Minecraft communities than I was on any previous video game or internet site. Contributing to this community, interacting with friends and viewers is something I enjoy. Minecraft is obviously the hub of it all, the game we share a passion for. And finally, the concept of Minecraft is what I like most about the game. Of course, the game is updated, mainly with survival in mind. Survival itself has many opportunities, but there's even more out with that, such as mapping, modding, minigames, PvP, creative, and many more. Even these categories have subcategories. I would say Minecraft is one of, if not the most diverse game out there, to the point where some might not even consider it a game and more of a platform in and of itself. The great thing about all this content is that I have only ever spent one sum of money on the game to buy it, and beyond that nothing else, if you discount the alt I bought. This might of course change in a big way in future, but I'm not complaining about the current state of things by any means. The lack of extra payments needed to be made is just another reason why I keep playing this game. Twisted Goose asked, Celtic or Rangers? Now, my short answer to this is that I have no preference, so I'm sorry, bad answer, but there you go. For those that don't know, Celtic and Rangers are two football teams that play in Glasgow, and they are traditionally the two biggest teams in Scotland, although Rangers went bust, somehow got reinstated and are yet to emulate the glory of their past teams. The point is, they are the best supported teams, and often you'll find the question in Scottish football is, which team do you prefer? Most Scottish football fans have an answer, but the few of us who support a team that isn't Celtic and Rangers usually hold some dislike for them. I wouldn't say I dislike them, but I just don't support either one, and when we beat them, it's great. Some football fans in Scotland will have one team, say Inverness, Caledonian Thistle or Kilmarnock, but then they'll also support one of the old firm, which is Celtic or Rangers. So it's a bit of a shame, but there you go, everyone has preferences. Another reason I don't like either team is the rivalry often goes beyond football into the realm of politics or religion or customs, and it's caused a lot of trouble in Scotland's recent past, and that's something I just wish to distance myself from. So yeah, that's my answer. Sorry if it's a bit vague. Scorpio asked what my favourite music genre is. It's for sure electro dance music, or EDM. The subgenre within that I like the most would be progressive house, although I have got a much wider taste than I did say a year or two ago. I like most of the subgenres such as glitch hop, drum and bass, drum step, electro, trap, and others alike. It was actually Pause and Pause's UHC intro for Minecraft Season 10 that got me into that sort of music. Before that I wasn't really into any genre, but after I found Monster Cat and I found No Copyright Sounds, and I've enjoyed their music and others ever since. So this is a very interesting question from Patnat, and I'm going to read it all out. The current venue of active servers is smaller than it has been in a long time. So my question is, what would your ideal server have, and what aspects couldn't be ideal if it were to compete with Hypixel? Now, I have thought about this, and it's a very difficult situation. Obviously I have no experience about owning a server or whatever, but I'll give it my best shot. I think my initial reaction would be to focus on what not to do in order to compete with Hypixel. First off, I would avoid including any game modes or mini games that Hypixel had, because I would either have an inferior game or I would have a temporarily better game until Hypixel noticed and upgraded their own to match or exceed mine. There's nothing wrong with competition, But if I want a server to compete with Hypixel, I don't want to compete directly in needless competition. That means Hypixel will almost always have the upper hand. The only game mode I would consider emulating Hypixel in providing would be UHC. Firstly, because I enjoy it. Secondly, because there's a lot you can do with it that's different from what Hypixel do. I'm not convinced UHC would make my server more popular than it would be if I didn't have it, simply because there's a lot of UHC on offer in this day and age. In providing UHC, I would be very tempted to think, right, what UHC is on offer to the public right now, and how can I make mine different? And we can answer that right now, quite simply. The popular UHCs include Cut Clean, Timber, Hasty Boys, Fast Melt, Triple Ores, less mobs, emphasis on PvP. I would want to turn that upside down and create a UHC experience that was based more on PvE, fighting mobs and finding ores. Similar to Dungeoneering, but I'd want a more vanilla feel, and I'd aim to have PvE hard to the point where very little PvP happens. Would this be popular? Definitely not among the current UHC community, but I'm not necessarily looking to appeal to the masses, but rather have a unique UHC game mode with unique characteristics to appeal maybe to people outside of the UHC community. I don't know if it would be 1.9 plus or 1.7/1.8. I'm not convinced having both as an option would be good either, therefore it would be either or. I wouldn't want UHC exclusively in a server to compete with Hypixel and other servers out there. I would have other unique or semi-unique content. One idea I had would be to have a Lord of the Rings Online style game. Not necessarily Lord of the Rings theme, but an open world with quests you could do with friends, storylines you could follow, and things to collect. I know Vex has done something like this for his patrons in the theme of Super Hostile, and there's also another server like this. Flare Fusion mentioned it to me a while back. The name escapes me, but obviously I would look to add a different twist to mine. It would be very difficult to include game modes such as this into a Minecraft server, yet it is what I would look to include in my own one in order to try to buck the trends of popular servers. Minigames are often quick and easy to play and make people want to go back and try again. However, larger game modes that require a lot of time to play, to complete, is something that I feel would be unappealing to the masses who play minigames. Problem with this idea and the UHC idea is the target audience. Who is the server trying to appeal to? It will not likely draw the minigames community, and it probably won't appeal to non-Minecraft players either. This still leaves a wide variety of other Minecraft communities who might be interested in the idea, but is it realistically going to compete with Hypixel? I'm not sure, yet at the same time, the issue is we need to do something radically different from Hypixel so as to differentiate from them and to make it difficult for them to latch on and take advantage of one of our unique ideas. Overall, I could do a series of videos talking about this, about what I want to add to my ideal server. However, I don't have enough time to devote to that now. I would, however, 100% avoid all popular minigames from Hypixel and other minigame servers, and I would for sure have a different form of UHC and would look to include other game modes that would be bigger than just a standard minigame. But the question is, would it be just as enjoyable and compelling to play? Competing indirectly with Hypixel is the main issue. Difficult? Yes. Impossible? Almost. Mr. Skyshooter asked, is there a reason why you hid your sub count? Yes there was. At one point around September, I began to gain subs at a ridiculous rate, faster than I had ever before, and some of my friends had been complaining about sub-botting. One person who was suspected of doing such a thing had links with an RR I had been invited to. Now, allegedly this person admitted to doing something like this to someone else, but at the end of the day, I don't know who did it to me. All I know is that the RR involved a lot of people getting botted, and I was just one of them. The problem is, even without the bots, my sub count far exceeds my view count, and so I didn't want to be sitting at a really large sub count influenced by bots and then only getting a few views. I don't mind not getting many views, but I don't want people to have perceived that I botted on purpose, or that I botted at all for that matter. In the grand scheme of things, subs, they're not really relevant for me, so if people want to keep up with my channel, they're free to sub. If not, that's fine, but I wish to avoid the whole issue of people helping people out by subbing to them, because ultimately subbing to someone doesn't really help if that's all that's going on. Also, if the person thought botting would help me, this is to demonstrate they were wrong. Just because I gain an extra 50, 100, 200 subs doesn't mean I'm going to keep growing after the botting has ended. That's all I'm saying. Not saying I should be botted anymore, just that botting achieves absolutely nothing.
Literally, I'm so close to 4-star, please no. I didn't put on my full iron!
This is CJ. CJ plays Hypixel UHC. CJ forgot to put on his full iron. CJ is forgetful. Don't be like CJ. Remember, put on your full iron. So Santa also asked who did I think the best player, as in the best football player of all time, was. Now this is a very difficult question, as everyone has their own opinion on it. I don't really have a good answer, but I'll do my best. People talk about Pele and Maradona as the two best players of all time, or well, certainly the 20th century, and they certainly had some unreal talent. There are also lots of other former players who have retired, such as Eusebio, Dino Zoff, Franz Beckenbauer, Kenny Dalglish, Michel Platini. They all played a long time ago. I never witnessed any of them play, but I've heard about how they were fantastic players. In the modern era, there are two players that are held high above everyone else. Those are obviously Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Both have been playing at the top level for over 12 years. Both have won countless honours at club level, and they've won a lot of World Player of the Year titles. So are they contenders to be considered the best player of all time? Who knows? Maybe. I'm not going to consider them for this question because they're not retired yet. They might improve a lot more before the end of their careers, so they might win a lot more before the end of their careers. I don't know. But two players who stood out when I was growing up were Zinedine Zidane and Ronaldo, who is the Brazilian Ronaldo, not Cristiano. I watched Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, score twice in the 2002 World Cup final. He scored, I think, 8 in that tournament, and he stood out as a player on that day who played for the passion of his country and the love of the game. And similarly, Zidane scored twice for France in the 1998 World Cup final, and he also got them to a final 8 years later. They both won, Ronaldo and Zidane both won World Footballer of the Year 3 times each, and they won many club honours too. One player I haven't mentioned is Johan Cruyff, who was from the Netherlands. I never saw him play, but he changed the game a lot in the 70s, and he was manager in the 90s, and similarly he changed a lot then as well. It is said he turned football from simply a game into an art. He brought about principles that saw the development of young players across the world and introduced a creative style of football to the teams he played for and managed. Maybe he wasn't the best player, but he certainly gave a lot to the game, more than any other player in history. If I had to pick one, I would go for a player that is already retired and a player who I had seen play. And I would probably pick the Brazilian Ronaldo, who was a great striker, provided many memorable moments for fans of football. But who knows, I may change my mind when Messi or Cristiano retire. Scorpio asked, who, in your opinion, do you think was the best PvPer in mid-2016, early 2017? And it's a very tricky question. As Scorpio said in his comment, it is very much an opinionated one. I will focus on the UHC community, or the Build UHC community, or whatever, as I don't have much experience in SG or Pot PvP or whatever else. Like I don't know those communities as well. But it was around mid-2016 that Dante reached 2.8k ELO on Badlion just before the switch to Season 13. So I think if we're talking exclusively about the best PvPer, then since he was top of the Build UHC leaderboards, then it would have to be him. There's obviously a lot of other names that could be brought forward. However, purely from the point of view of the Build UHC leaderboards, which was and still is the most popular kit on the most competitive PvP server at the time, it would have to be Dante. I know he stopped playing at some point in that time frame, and so you're probably looking at a different player for, you know, early 2017, but I really wouldn't know, to be honest, so I'm just going to say Dante. 3D Spodders asked, what did you have for breakfast? Well, since I'm Scottish, I enjoy haggis and tatties every day for breakfast. I'm just kidding. Usually I have some sort of cereal or toast. Today I had cereal, but I can't remember what type it was. My most memorable breakfast was last year when I was living alone. I decided to go out to the shop and get a kipper to eat. And it was cheap, it was tasty, apart from the 1 million bones that came with it. All I had to do was put it in the microwave and that was it. However, I quickly realised I had made a mistake as fish smells emanated from the microwave. I opened every window and made every effort not to go into the kitchen for the rest of the day. Moral of the story is don't get cheap kippers unless you are willing to deal with the smell that comes after and the bones that come with it. Twisted Goose asked, what is your favourite place in the world? It's a tough question. I think I've been lucky enough to visit many nice places in the world. For a start though, I would have to say the homes I've stayed in over the last few years are my favourite, as those are the places I've done YouTube, I've made many friends, had some great nights gaming, and also I've had my struggles. Therefore I would say there's no place like home. Apart from places I've resided in, I would have to say I went hiking many years ago as part of a school initiative. It took place in the Scottish Highlands, and there was a particular place called Glenderry, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. The reason I liked it was not just the great scenery, but the fact that it was so remote, far from any major town or city, untouched by modern civilization. The UK is fairly small and does not have huge areas of land that are like that. However, in Scotland we've obviously got a lot of land reserved for wildlife, walking and nature, and that place just epitomises what's great about that. It's almost got a sense of the past, a magical sense in it. Sounds a bit crazy, but I mean that's just the feeling I got as I was there. I would also give a quick mention to a place I went in Africa where I witnessed the Great East African Rift, which is basically just a huge valley at the point where there's a continental fault in the the tectonic plates. I think it was an amazing view, almost like being on the edge of the world. And that too was far out in the wilds, far from civilization.
Yeah.
Actually, like, what?
Can you
Is someone more?
What?
Oh, you.
Okay,
Oh.
check.
Scorpio asked, what is your favourite Scottish thing? And I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't drink, so it's definitely not whiskey. I'm not a fan of Iron Brew, so it's not that. I quite like Scottish tunes, particularly the bagpipes. No idea why, and I know a lot of people don't like them, but I just find a sense of satisfaction and enjoyment from them. No matter how educated I might become, I don't think I'll lose the secret sense of pride in my nation through hearing such tunes. Haggis, neeps and tatties are also good, as is Scottish tablets, which is sort of like fudge but tastier. So that was my questions and answers. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions. Apologies if I didn't answer one of your questions or the question you asked, but I can only make the video so long. I don't want it to last for hours and hours and hours. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you have a good Christmas, a good New Year, or a good winter season, whatever you prefer. I do plan to continue my channel as long as I can, as stated at some point in this video. For now, thanks for watching, all the best, and I will see you another time.